Welcome to the September 13th Conservation Meeting. Please note that tonight's meeting is being recorded. All materials are available at the Conservation website, on the town website at the Conservation Division page. Brian Bowe, who is the Vice Chair of the Conservation Commission, will facilitate tonight's meeting. And please note that there will be a public comment period for each hearing. Each vote taken tonight will be taken a roll call vote. And we will begin with the roll call attendance. Brian, can you take the attendance and then review the agenda?
Sure. So I will call each of your names to be sure you can hear and be heard. And this will be the order that we'll take for the rest of the meeting.
Don't turn the audio on. Like that.
And having said that, Andrew,
That wasn't me. Andrew Durgan, present, member.
Tony,
Tony Odelakis, present, member.
Bill,
See, that's this. I gotta get off. How do I get off of it?
There you go. I muted him. Not a problem.
Bill McCants, member, present.
Ryan Bowe, Vice Chair, present. And with that, a quick review of what we're going to be covering tonight. First, we're going to start with a continuation of a hearing on Zero Small Lane, to be followed by a hearing on an RDA for 92 Van Norden. Then we'll move on to a hearing on an NOI for 15 Temple Street. And then comes 413 Main Street, which is an NOI. And at that point, then we may have an update from Chuck on Meadowbrook access and get to old new business with a few discussion items. And we have some minutes to vote on. With that, Chuck, back to you.
Sure. So our first agenda item is Zero Small Lane. And we could go right to that, or you could do announcements if there are any. So you don't have any?
I don't think we have any announcements.
Okay. So Zero Small Lane, we have Maureen Harold and Ann Martin here. Maureen, I'm not sure, is anyone else with you tonight? Because we have someone identified as iPad. It was.
Just myself and Jack Sullivan, I believe.
Sure, Jack's here in person. And so you have permission to put up the plan if you want that Maureen and Jack is going to take over. And just for the meeting, Jack, can you just state your name, address?
For the record, my name's Jack Sullivan. I'm owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. My address is 25 Clover Circle in Reading.
Jack, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just for the record, the time of our start was 7:10. Now back to you.
Okay, thank you. We were before you on this project on June 17th, 2023. I brought some of the new members up to speed, and this project's been going on quite a while. So at the last meeting, I got into it's the 2-lot subdivision. I went through all the information on it, tried to bring all the members up to speed to where we are presently. Based on that meeting, there were a few comments that the commission would like to see addressed. At that meeting, Maureen Harold from Norse Environmental was not able to attend. There were questions that really she had to answer. Ann Myron of LEC had some specific questions as part of her work. So Maureen did prepare a memo dated August 19th that was submitted as part of this record, addressing the commissioner's questions and Ann Myron's questions as well. As the commission knows, there were 2 sets of peer reviewers for this project. We had LEC Environmental doing the wetland work, and Horsley Wynn doing the drainage review. We basically worked through the majority of all the concerns down to the items that came up at the June 17th meeting. So I think at this time, I'll have Maureen try to address her memo from August 19th, give a brief overview of her comments back, and then we'll turn it over to the commission for follow-up questions. So I'll turn it over to you, Maureen.
Thank you, Jack. So as Jack mentioned, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend the June meeting. I was given a list of items that the commission would like to see addressed. I believe I addressed all those items. Just briefly go through the memo because I know the commission has a long agenda this evening. One of them was a question regarding an alternative for just the construction of a single-family dwelling and driveway. I addressed that in the review.
Recording in progress.
The commission requested additional information regarding the stream and the substrate for the roadway. I addressed that in the review, specified the existing stream, provided the substrate, provided photographs for the commission for those that haven't had an opportunity to go out there and to review the property. Commission requested information on bank restoration. I provided that, as well as requested that the bank land under water bodies and waterways performance standards to be addressed. And I believe all of those have been addressed in the August 19th document. Commission requested stream stats to be run. That's been provided in the package as well. I updated the notice of intent form and the proposed impacts, both permanent and temporary. And there was some supplemental information the commission had requested regarding stream crossing replacements, and impacts to downstream flooding, erosion and head cutting, and stream stability. And I provided that information on the August 30th memo. I'm more than happy to elaborate on that if the commission would like, but I'll open it up to the commission.
And I'll just add one more thing to what Maureen said. That we also included a dewatering plan. The consultant or the commission as well wanted to see where we were going to dewater. I did show an area on the plan. I know Ann Martin has some comments on that. She sent an email out early this week asking if there could be an alternative location, and we're open to an alternative location. It's tough. Typically, as Ann stated, it usually goes on a grass or undisturbed natural area so that when you dewater, water can naturally infiltrate back into the ground. In this case, we have limited area. Once you cut the trees, you pull the stumps, you start the utility work. We have to install the water and sewer utilities first, even before we do the culvert crossing, because the water and sewer are the deepest utility on this project. So I'm open to discuss. Ann can elaborate more on that as we go into the meeting, but we're open to an alternative location. And I had also shown an area that would be surrounded by hay bales with crushed stone, and she thought maybe a dirt sack would work better. You pump right into the sack. The silt stays in the sack, and then you can change out the sack. That makes sense for the site, so I'm open to that as well. I'll turn it back over to Chuck and the commission for any other questions.
Okay, so with that, does anybody in the commission have questions? Ideally starting with Andrew, and a note. I can't see hands getting raised, so if you be my eyes on that, that would be helpful. So Andrew, do you have any questions you need to ask?
Sure. So my first question is, since we're working
Within the 35-foot no build zone, if I'm understanding the plan correctly, is there a variance being requested for?
Yes, that was part of the original submittal, that we did request a waiver for that, for the limited project roadway crossing, as well as for the installation of the replication area.
So we've gone through, so I know this project's been going on for a long time, but we've gone through how it meets the request for a variance?
Yes, that was submitted, oh my gosh, quite some time ago. maybe even a year ago.
It might have been before me. I mean, I'm asking, because when you go through a variance, you usually show some alternatives. And I know we've brought it up and it's nothing that ever gets anywhere, but I would still like to see the single family alternative as a variance to what we could be doing instead of what you're proposing. It seems sensible, it seems reasonable to expect that. And I don't think you ever drawn one, or at least I haven't seen one. And so the claim that it's been denied is just based off of what the expectations are. But I've seen around town where people are building homes that don't meet the requirements. So there are variances being coming from the CPDC. But I mean, I can only do this so long, but I'd like to see that single family alternative. Just for the variance alone, it seems like that's part of what our expectations are.
So just so that I understand the question, you would like us to go to CPDC for a waiver for the frontage? Because the whole reason why we can't do a single family dwelling here is because we don't have the required frontage. And Jack can elaborate on that.
And so,
Yes, I would like you to go to, but I've been told that you've gone to CPDC and you've gotten a denial from that, but I don't understand how you went to CPDC without a drawing to get a denial on that.
we actually, Andrew, this is Jack Sullivan. We filed a preliminary subdivision plan, and we went to a few DRT meetings with the town staff. And as I stated at the June meeting, we would basically, if we did one house or two houses, we'd have to build this road as shown. And we're here, this notice of intent isn't dealing with the two house lots. There'll be future notice of intents for the houses, the grading, the drainage, the utility work on the two lots. But the roadway as shown, if you had one or two homes, would be the same. The benefit to this project right now, small lane just dead ends. There's no turnaround. So
That's not my understanding, Jack. I'm sorry. So you've never drawn a plan that's only a single family home to try to show to CPDC or to us?
we did, we actually.
The last meeting you said there was a sketch, but that has not been
No,
submitted.
we had submitted a plan with a 22-foot wide paved section to go back, and the town engineer was against it. And there's notes from DRT meetings, he wanted a 24-foot wide paved roadway with a full cul-de-sac. So we're here tonight for the road. We're not even looking at the house lots, it's just to get the road approved. And regardless if we did one or two homes, what you see in front of you tonight with the road, the crossing, the replication, all that would still hold if you did one or two homes.
I would like to get that confirmed from CPDC.
Okay.
I've been saying that since I mean, I've only been on 3 meetings with you. Or I'm not getting a lot of support from my other commission members, but you're saying it's been denied, but you've never drawn an actual alternative to this. That would just be a single family home, and had a discussion with us in CPDC about how this could have such a drastic impact. LEC's been asking for it. It does not have to have this much impact on conservation. I don't know why it's falling on our shoulders to do a variance because we're claiming that CPDC denied it. We could deny this and then you're on CPDC's shoulders. But I think we just need a conversation, and I'm really shocked at how poorly communicative everybody is. But I guess that's what happens when you design the committee.
Andrew, if I could jump in for a second. So you've made your point very clear. In fact, in part of what Ann Martin wrote, she suggested that we should get a written copy of the denials. And I didn't see that in the packet. Maybe I missed it, but if not, then that's something that we should have. If for no other reason, to understand, did they give you thinking as to why it was denied? But do you have anything else you want to talk about, Andrew?
No, I have nothing else to say until I see that.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense, Jack?
That makes sense. And Andrew, you're right. There have been some cases in town where I've shown like a 2-lot layout. They waived the requirement of the road and you could do a driveway. But in this case, we already have an existing 350-foot dead-end road. We're extending the road another 300 feet. If we just put another dead end, you're extending a dead end to a dead end. CPDC doesn't like to see that. And for public safety, the turnaround is a benefit because right now there is no turnaround. So for emergency vehicles, they have to back out of small lane. The other developments are just small developments that the fire hasn't had to worry about getting in and out of the sites, and they've allowed that waiver. But
Okay.
we'll try to get you some more information.
Now, let's
Yeah,
leave.
thanks.
You can see those.
Okay, we'll get you some more information.
Okay,
I appreciate that.
so Andy's okay to move on?
Yes.
Okay, Tony, do you have anything?
Yes. I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to thank the response that identified the resource areas and then explained how the proposed project would meet the protection standards. I saw something for inland bank and for land underwater. Is there BVW which is being affected by this project? And if there is, I don't recall seeing discussion of the BVW performance standard. Is that something that I missed?
Yes, there's BVW being altered, or proposed to be altered. And I believe that was in the documentation. I believe it was in the notice of intent report, because when we filed this originally for the notice of intent, I filed it as a limited project crossing with the BVW alteration mentioned in the performance standards there. I can certainly forward that information or resubmit it to the commission because it has been some time.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to see that with the discussion of, as you did with inland bank and land underwater, listing the performance standards and then explaining how the project would meet or not meet those specific performance standards.
Okay, alternatively, I could possibly go through it now.
I'd like to have it in writing. That's okay.
Understood. Okay.
Okay,
Thank
Tony,
you.
all set, Tony?
Yes.
Bill, you have anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the August 30th, 2023 write-up response to the questions about downstream flooding and so on and so forth. This is not inconsistent with what I expected to see. I just wanted to document it, and it's well documented here. So thank you for that. And just for the record, I want to say to my fellow Commissioner Andrew, very much respect your strong feelings on this, but you said you're not feeling backed up by your fellow commissioners. We have different perspectives. I'm actually very impressed at how carefully this project has evolved. Not questioning that you want additional documentation. I just want to state for the record, we don't all see this the same way, and that's not required. And that's it. Thanks.
Okay. Chuck, do you want to, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I would like to, so I know that Anne is battling the flu, and I was wondering if she would give us some of her thoughts on this project, because we're very close to closing this out, closing out the discussion. Our engineering consultants have reviewed this. They've gone back and forth with Jack Sullivan, the applicant's engineer, and along with our wetland scientist was Ann Martin from LEC, and Maureen Harold from Norse Environmental. And a lot of back and forth has happened for, I heard this has taken 5 years. It seems outrageous that it's taken that long, but I'm sure it wasn't the commission's fault. So if, Anne, you have anything to add to this project that the commission should keep in mind and have the opportunity at this point to ask these questions. Ann?
Sure. Ann Martin from LEC Environmental. While the commission was asking questions and Maureen was asking, I was going back through my electronic files. Maureen did go through the performance standards for the impacts to BVW in the notice of intent. So those materials are in the record somewhere, albeit it was back, I think, in 2021 when the notice of intent was submitted. So it has been a while and maybe deep in the commission's records. I commented about getting it in writing from the planning board that they would not approve the single driveway because under the limited project standards for limited access, part of it is that there's no viable alternative. And so you would want something from the planning board or the design review committee or something in writing that the commission would rely on and would be in the record for their decision to allow a roadway with a cul-de-sac instead of a single driveway. I've reviewed the additional materials that Maureen submitted. I don't have any other additional comments. I did want to add one thing to my comments about the dewatering. And Jack, I was suggesting a silt sack, but I was actually suggesting a silt sack, and instead of on riprap with hay bales, kind of a hay bale pit that was lined with Marafi, and locating the test pit in an alternative location other than where it was. A lot of times what happens is the ultimate location is laid out during construction. I just didn't want to leave the location where you had shown it because it is very close to the edge of the wetland, and I wanted to get at least where it's shown on the site plan. I wanted to get that as far away from the wetland as possible.
Yep, that made sense to me, Ann, and you had provided a sketch of an alternative location at the end of the cul-de-sac within the 20-foot drain easement, and that would work for us, and I can update the plan accordingly.
Okay. And I tried to look for a sample detail of, you know, the hay bale, square hay bales or in a square lined with the Marafi, and I couldn't find one, but I'm sure that you can create a detail for that. I just think it will be more effective at removing or containing the silt, even with the silt sack set in that, so that you kind of have a double layer of filtration to avoid any impacts to the wetlands since they're so close. Other than that, I don't have any other comments unless the commission has questions for me.
Okay, thanks, Ann. So having said that, we have listed a few things that we need in addition, updated plan and such. We should enumerate them before we're done, but at this point, it seems like we'll continue to another meeting based on things people want to see. So if that's true, is that amenable to the applicant?
Yeah, that works for us, right, Maureen?
I believe so. I can resubmit the BVW performance standards. And then it just sounds like we need to relocate the dewatering area, provide the additional detail and suggested, and then more info on just the driveway in lieu of the roadway. Is that correct?
I think that was the full list. Well, getting a copy.
Yeah, the performance standards, the plan. And there's one more option.
A copy of the.
Denials.
Denials.
And Maureen, the notice of intent is still on our website and the performance standards are there, so you don't have to submit that.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Okay. Then having said that, can I have a motion to continue this hearing? By the way, before I do that, I assume, given the number of things we have here, that the next meeting is sufficient, or do you need more time than that?
We'd be ready for the next meeting.
Is that okay with you, Maureen, as well?
Yes, please.
Okay, Just,
Oh,
you gotta-
before we do that, maybe we want to, I just realized this, sorry. Just see if there's anybody here that would like to comment on this.
fair point. I skipped over asking the general public here or on Zoom if they have anything they want to add to the discussion before we continue it.
Sure, and if you're online, just use the reaction buttons and raise hand function, and we'll get to you.
Seeing none, hearing none, can I have a motion, please?
This is Bill McCants. Make a motion to continue the hearing until the next meeting of the Conservation Commission.
This is Tony Rotalakis. I second that.
So that'll be the 27th. Okay, can we vote on it? Andrew, you want to start us off?
Okay, and that gives you enough time to talk to CPDC and get the required written documentation?
If CBDC has a denial, we can get that pretty quickly.
Okay, they have to show that there's no viable alternatives. But yeah, sure, yes.
Tony?
This is Tony. I vote to continue.
Bill McCants in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor? So that's unanimous. Okay, I think
Thank
we're
you.
set with that one.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so then moving on to 92 Van Norden. Do you want to bring some things up while I read the script?
Sure thing. Yeah.
We're going to open the public hearing on a request for determination of applicability filed by James and Amy Lebrecht under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Paragraph 40, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to demolish an existing detached garage and construct a new addition to include an attached garage located in previously disturbed area. Minor site grading changes are needed to accommodate the addition. A portion of the work is within the buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office. And the assessor's map is 39, lot 93, file 2023-18. Is anybody here or zooming in from the applicant?
We have Jack Sullivan and the 97 Van Norton right there sitting came to Town Hall. So Jack, again for the record.
Yep, for the record, Jack Sullivan and the Sullivan Engineering Group, and I'm here tonight with the owners, Jim and Amy Lebrecht of 92 Van Norton Road. So as you know, we submitted an RDA application for this. The reason for that is this closest point of the proposed addition is 90 feet from the BVW. Also, there's no trees to be cut, and the addition is going in an area that was previously disturbed, and the majority of that area is impervious surfaces to begin with, so there's not really going to be an increase of any impervious surfaces for this project within the 100-foot buffer zone. As Chuck read in, or Brian read in, they presently have a detached garage that's closer to the wetland. The wetlands, not much closer, but maybe 5 feet closer to the wetlands. They'd like to remove that, and they're gonna, it'll be an attached garage now. The garage meets zoning requirements. A portion of the garage falls within the 100-foot BVW line. We're proposing 12-inch diameter mulch sock to be staked at the limit of work line, which is basically the back of the existing house. Norse Environmental performed the wetland flagging for me on this site. Looked pretty straightforward, so that's what we're here tonight on in RDA. All abutters were noticed, and copies of the notices were, proof of mailing were provided to Chuck. I'll turn it over to the commission and to check for any questions.
Okay, then, commissioners, do we have any questions? We'll start with you again, Andrew.
No, this seems like I have no problem with the proposal.
Okay, Tony?
We did do a site visit. I should know, and I know Brian will, but I'll beat you to the punch. There is some yard waste in the back area that should be addressed. And for the record, this is a determination, so it doesn't really matter, but the wetland line doesn't really make sense. I'm sure Tony will get to that one, but I don't think we need to belabor this one. It all seems good to me.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Tony?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One, the resource area is identified as bordering vegetated wetland. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on what resource area is actually being bordered. Is there a stream back there, or is it floodland?
Jack, do you want me to take this?
If you can, Maureen.
Yes, there's a stream back there, making it bordering.
Okay. And I believe this was the site where we had difficulty locating a number of the flags.
Yes.
I think we found A4. We found another one that was somewhat removed from where it may have been hung, because it was tied onto a vine of some sort that had dried and fallen off and had moved. So I agree with Andrew's statement that I don't think we can, at least I wouldn't be in favor of approving or recognizing the wetland line based on what we saw. I think the flags had been put down about a year or two ago, and there appeared to have been some movement, and it wasn't clear enough where we could verify the line. I'm not asking for a redelineation. I think we have enough information to move forward. Just that I wouldn't approve
Fortunate, and just for future noticers out there on the site to walk the line. Fortunately with this project, the work is far enough away that I'm not sure it would have too much of an effect.
No, it wouldn't, but if there were more work to be done in the future, if there was work that was proposed that was closer to the wetland line, it may be a little more controversial. So I'm not saying you need to redelineate now. Like I said, I think we've got enough information, and the project is far enough away. But I wouldn't want to memorialize the line for a future project.
I understand it, and if in the future, if you'd like me to meet you out there or any of the commission, I'm more than happy.
Great, thank you.
Is that it, Tony?
That's
Bill?
Yes, even when the project's this far away, when we're thinking about approving any kind of work within the buffer, we do always look at the, in this case, the BVW line, and it's customary for us to look at vegetation there, if any. If I'm not mistaken, what we saw there was turf grass?
Yes.
Yep. And so we do like to see when work's being done anyway, that the property owner consider putting in a strip of natural vegetation there, width we're flexible on, even 3 to 4 feet, but something other than turf grass at that line. And we like to see thoughtfulness about the ground layer, shrub layer, that kind of thing. So just something that to be consistent with what we expect from other properties in town, because we do look at the entire buffer zone. We do appreciate that the addition will be further away. And then there's, and I don't see it on the map, it may be described elsewhere, but in terms of raising the garage and so forth, we're always interested in where are the materials going to be on the property to ensure they're being kept as far away from the resource area as possible. And given where the 100-foot buffer line is, you have flexibility there. But at least in the map I'm currently looking at, I know there are others, I'm not seeing where that is. So to get some clarification there would be helpful.
Do we have any responses?
I can respond to that. It's just a small garage. They're gonna pull in, collapse it and load it out that day. They'll fold it right in on itself and take it right out off the driveway. So there'll be no stockpile. They're not gonna stockpile it and come back or even put it in a dumpster. They'll just load it right out.
Yeah, we don't take that for granted even with a small project, but that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
all done, thank you.
Okay. First of all, Andrew, thank you for mentioning the yard waste. So to elaborate a little bit more, so what we saw back there were quite a few leaves. It's pretty spongy. We saw grass clippings very near the stream, and there's a brush pile. So those things will have to go. And we can talk to you about how to take out the leaves without scraping down too far. But that needs to go back to its natural state for all the, to achieve all the functions of the wetlands. So we can talk to you about that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this strip that Bill was talking about. So do you understand the point he's making?
Yeah, from the flags back to
From the
the
flags.
wall.
So there's a couple of points there that are related. One is that the flags are the boundary. So already mowing beyond that, you're actually mowing into the resource. It's not even the other side of it. So that's one place that you would have to address by not mowing back there anymore. Then additionally, there's supposed to be a strip 25 feet beyond those flags, which is a no disturb zone. So that means technically, according to the bylaw, you shouldn't be mowing there either. That's why I wanted to be sure you understand that, because that's two measurable pieces of what you have for lawn back there. So what do you think about that?
25 feet from the flag, so like the middle of our backyard.
So that's what the bylaw says. Now, what Bill was talking about, sometimes we'll ask instead for a smaller strip because of the impact on the yard and everything. But just wanted you to understand that that's what the words say, and now we can decide on what the agreement is. Okay.
So that it could be something that we further discuss in terms of.
Well, I think in order for us to vote and go forward, we'd have to agree to something tonight. I'd like to follow up on what Bill was talking about maybe a 3, 4, 5 foot strip. But the point is that is from the flags closer to your house. So already outside of the flags needs to go back to, well, we have to talk about that, but basically to something natural. And we'll take some plantings and what have you to do that. But then additionally, there's a few feet inside the flags, if you will, closer to the house.
And if I may just add, this is not an uncommon situation in Reading where, homeowner buys a house, it's already turf grass, then they find out it's within what we call the zone of natural vegetation. And sometimes it's when we have this hearing, they're first discovering this, and they sometimes want a little time to think about that. Okay, so you're talking about, 3, 4, 5 feet as Brian was sharing, and sometimes the property owner goes, great, let's give some thought, a little bit of thought, talk with our consultants, and then, get back to you. Or if you wanted to make a proposal tonight, that'd be okay too.
I mean, I think my largest concern is the delay this would do to our project, given winter approaching.
Yep.
We really wanted to get moving on it.
Okay.
To me, I mean, it seems almost like separate issues as far as building the garage versus taking care of, being stewards of the land as we have been.
Except that we have one project to approve.
Okay.
That's right, we got that.
No, not at all.
Could I add something that might help it along? So, just to my clients, if we say, okay, from the wetland line, we come out 5 feet max into your yard, and we plant 6 to 8 native shrubs, like a low bush blueberries, something. Chuck has an approved native species list that usually, if you guys are open to that, that could be a discussion.
So how does that, so we agree to that, you come and, I imagine, review that we've done it?
So what we want to see is a plan. So you lay out with Jack or whoever, what kinds of plantings you're going to do and pretty much where you're going to do the plantings. And we would accept that or not, and then you would do it. And at some point in the future, we would come out and see that in fact, the right things are in the right places, and then they have to survive for a certain period of time.
But that's a condition we would put in now for the RDA. In other words, you could go forward with this would be one of the conditions that you'd meet while you were doing the project.
While we're still
Yep,
moving forward.
while you're moving forward.
Okay, yes. That would be my proposal then, to make the several or so plantings beyond the flags, to have that strip natural.
Okay. Do you think we need to nail down what those plantings would be at this point, or leave it up to a conversation that you would have with them?
Yes, so Jack has come up with planting plans for a long time now. But two things. I just want to make sure that you understand it's in front of the flags.
Yes.
Okay. Secondly, it sounds like we're talking about a 5-foot vegetated buffer strip with native plants, but Bill McCant has asked for for you to approach all 3 layers, the herbaceous, shrub, and I'm gonna say tree layer, but you know, that would be nice. It's always nice to get some large trees out there. So 6 or 7 shrubs are not gonna do it. You're gonna have to put in those base layers also.
So you'll handle that, but just so you understand, so basically just putting bushes in isn't sufficient. You want some kind of ground cover, and then ideally you'd have some kind of smaller trees and what have you, so it's more typical of what that area should be. All right, but Jack, I hear he's an expert, so he can handle that.
Yeah. And so typically we would get that plan, and the commission has in the past just let me review it, and it can happen, you know, if you can get the project done quick enough, you could do it this fall, or the other opportunity is early spring. So the permit would be for 3 years.
So you can still go ahead with the garage,
Mhm.
just the planting, you would plant when it was best for the plants, because you need survivability.
They need to survive.
Yeah, if you plant them
Right.
and they go away, you
You've
didn't
never
win.
seen how non-green my thumb is.
Oh, I can imagine, you should see mine. Okay, having said that, that's my only question.
Andrew has his hand up.
Thank you, Andrew. I can't see it, but I hear you have your hand up.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you, but since Tony and I were just questioning where the flags are, because it is on turf, and it seemed like that land was not very soft. So that's kind of, and I agree with Tony that we shouldn't, I forget, Chuck knows the language, but that we don't accept the flags. Do we need to go back and kind of just confirm where where you should be planting these? Or do we just kind of use that as the guidance anyway? So where we had it drawn on the map as the flag wall.
It seems like it would be up to the commission, I assume that you were asking that to the fellow commissioners.
I am, yeah, like, just how do we want to handle that, just, because it did seem like the flags in the ground I didn't, like Tony was saying, I didn't understand why the flags were there. But I didn't really think about how that impacts potential future plantings.
Yeah, I agree.
So I wasn't thinking about it.
We were all surprised that the flags were that far into the turf lawn. And we looked around for other indicative plants, and we saw some ferns at the tree line, for example, but we were wondering if the flags were correct. Bill?
Yeah, and I just want to remind the commissioners that under 10.55 2.3, When an area's been disturbed, which includes turf grass, the boundary is the line where there's indicators of saturated or inundated conditions, we didn't see that. A predominance of wetland indicator plants, we didn't see that. Or credible evidence from a competent source that the area supported or would support predominance of wetland indicator plants. And we have a map here by Norse Environmental on April 6, 2022. And the way I read 10.5523 is that is a competent source that says this is a wetland. And that's sufficient for me under the state regs, but I realize people may have other points of view.
Just to clarify the delineation, I flagged it based on the soils. So, you know, I understand there wasn't wetland vegetation there at the time, but it was hybrid soils. So whenever I delineate a wetland, I look at all three criteria: the vegetation, the hydrology, and the soils. The hydrology is the water table, and the soils were hydric or they were wet. So that's why I based the flagging at that location. My understanding from the commission, regardless if it's turf grass or not, you want to see the wetland delineation based on the hydrology and the wetland soils. So that's how I flagged it.
Right, Maureen, absolutely, that's great. You've looked at it in three ways. My point is, because it's turf grass, we only needed one. So you've actually done more than required here, which I appreciate.
Okay, then, given that Tony and Andrew, are you all right with moving forward with us accepting that delineation?
Well,
That does impact the applicant, but yeah.
not the delineation. So, Andy, can I step in just for a second?
Yeah.
I thought we were only talking about the location of the border, the vegetative buffer strip. We're still not going to accept the wetland line.
Fine.
I thought that's what-
That's what
okay.
Tony and Andrew was suggesting. Okay. So that would be
Okay, well,
a
Bill is
condition.
questioning that, but I like that plan, Chuck.
Okay.
All right.
I'm requesting no such thing. Let me just say that for the record. I'm just reading state law and I think we have enough here for the buffer strip. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you, but we don't need it since it's a DOA, so, that's how I feel.
I actually do think we need to maybe accept the line, because if we're gonna agree to planting a vegetation buffer zone, I don't wanna be told, you know, a year from now that it's actually different and we have to change where we planting that vegetation. So with Maureen's,
Expertise.
hi Maureen, thank you. This is Amy LeBrecq talking, by the way. I apologize, I should have said that from the get-go. I think it's clear that it was delineated with expertise, and I would submit to the commission that perhaps it can be accepted tonight so we can move forward with what we need to do.
So what's Tony say?
Any response to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, as long as we're going by what's shown on the plan and not the flags in the field.
How about you, Andrew? You okay with that?
Yes, especially if the applicant is, yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the commission or Chuck before we move on? Well, before I ask for general public.
No, you don't, I mean, I had some questions about, you know, storm drains and construction entrance. I know it's a small proposed garage here, and I assume it's like a pad, like a concrete pad, and that's ripping up. Are you putting in a frost wall, or you just
Frost wall.
frost
Not a
wall?
full basement. Not a full basement, right?
No, just the frost.
Just a frost wall.
And you have, you're just gonna dump the spoils into a truck and truck them off site?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just have a condition that you, and that shouldn't take too long, but the condition to sweep the street at the end of each day, and certainly before rainstorms. And I'm not sure, not every street has storm drains here in Reading, but if the storm drain is right in front of the house, I would put a silt sack in it.
You guys have a storm drain in
It's
front of your house?
two
I don't
houses
think you
down.
do.
I think it's two properties down or so.
It's 2 properties down, you could watch it, but if you get the sediment and the sand and it looks like it's heading towards it, first that's what you were supposed to sweep, so you could stop that from happening in the first place, but if it doesn't happen, you'd have to get a silt sack in that storm drain.
At which point can we stop with that? Because the project, so why we're here is for the garage, but we are looking to renovate the kitchen. So are we gonna be?
So you're not in front of us for the kitchen.
No, exactly.
But it's a good idea you wouldn't want stuff in the street anyways. I would just be
We don't want
vigilant
anything.
throughout the job, but there's some points where it would make more sense during the excavation, of course. And in case there was a pile of sand to backfill or something, you'd want to watch that also.
Anything that runoff would take away.
That's what I have.
Are there any comments from the general public not sitting in this room? Okay. Having said that, then can I have a motion to close this hearing?
This is Andrew Driven. I make a motion to close the public hearing for 92 Van Norden.
This is Bill McCann. I second the motion.
Okay, let's vote.
Andrew, favor? Billy Rotalakis in favor.
Bill McCann's in favor?
Ryan Bowe in favor. That's unanimous. Okay, so this is an RDA. So for us to give you approval going forward, we would have to vote it a negative determination. So it sounds like a bad thing, but actually that's a good thing. All right, so having said that, can I have a motion on the determination?
Yeah, this is Andrew. I'll make a negative motion of determination for 92 Van Norden under, with the conditions that a natural buffer will be established along the delineated wetland line, plus a 5-foot buffer, and other conditions discussed at the meeting tonight.
Anybody second that?
This is Bill McCann. I'll second the motion.
Andrew Driven in favor? Tony Rotalakis in favor?
Bill McCann's in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. That's unanimous. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
You could probably get me the plan prior to me issuing this.
I can get it quick.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then, moving on to 15 Temple Street. I'll read the words, in fact, I'm going to bring up anything you have.
Sure.
Open the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by Anthony Silva, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to raise an existing dwelling and construct a new single-family dwelling, driveway, deck, fence, and roof drop infiltration. Portions of the work are within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and intermittent stream. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office. Assessors map 16, lot 342, DEP file number 270-0775. Is there anybody here from the applicant?
Hello, I am the applicant. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
How's it going?
good, and you?
Spectacular, thank you.
Okay, do you want to walk us through your project?
Sure. So basically, the cover page you see here, I'm assuming you can see the slide that's gonna.
Yes.
See the slide that's gonna?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so basically the photo on the left is the existing home, photo on the right is what's proposed. So really looking to keep similar look, consistent with the neighborhood, and
and just add a little bit of space, basically. Included in the report is, I guess, a whole bunch of documentation, but I guess just to give an overview, this is literally an overview, bird's eye view, looking down. North is up, and we're basically looking at directly down the house, obviously, on the left, and under this tree on the right is the wetland barrier, or the delineated barrier. This view is basically an overlay of the survey. Overlay of the survey, which shows the 25 and 35 foot buffer lines, and then the 100 foot buffer line, and the delineated flags on the east border. So this is basically an overview of kind of what the project will look like, or excuse me, what the existing setup looks like. This is a view just sort of from, if you can see my cursor roughly right here, just underneath the swing set, looking backwards towards the shed in the back border. I think some of you folks were out here last week, or earlier this week rather, walking in this very area. So this is sort of the boundary with the wetlands. And then basically this here is, sorry about the delay, there you go, is basically the proposal. And so again, existing on the left and proposed on the right, showing again the same 25 and 35 foot buffer lines and the 100 foot barrier running through sort of the center of the structure, both existing and proposed structure. So also on here, showing the proposed silt fence, stockpile area, and what would be the infiltration collection area from the roof lines. So as far as overview of what the ask is, that's basically it in a nutshell. I guess I'll take questions unless there's more detail that you'd like me to show.
No, thank you. So we can have some questions. Andy, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So we did go, and as you mentioned, Tony, we were out and visiting some of us earlier this week.
Yep.
And yeah, we can see you have a long, narrow lot, and in the back of the house was the intermittent stream, and it takes a turn right in your backyard. And we assume there's no flags there at the moment, but there's a clear break that we could assume was what was delineated. And we did take a measurement, and everything seemed to line up with the plans.
Okay.
So my main question for you is, I know the shed, I'm guessing, looks like it's been there probably since when you bought the house. But
Yeah, it was permitted in 1983. Sorry to cut you off, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So as part of the renovation, we don't like to have structures within the 25-foot buffer zone.
Sure.
Since we're going through all this work, I would like to see the shed either relocated or find all the stuff that's in there a new home so we could remove it. So that would be my request. The greenhouse as well, but I think you mentioned that was a COVID thing that's kind of just left over anyhow. It's it is very cute though.
Appreciate that. That's the first time that word's been used like that. Yeah, so the plan is actually to remove the greenhouse, so that's no problem. I can definitely give some thought to the shed as well.
Okay. And that's my main comment. I'm sure the other commissioners might spark something else, but that's my main.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll pass on.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. How about you, Tony?
Hi, just a couple of I think minor comments. First is just a little bit of housekeeping in the application, in the stormwater BPM operations and maintenance manual.
Mm-hmm.
The proposed conditions reference is a septic system, but I don't think you're putting one in based on our site visit. You said you're connected to town services.
Yeah, septic system. I'm not sure why that would have been in there. I guess maybe that's language. Yeah, sorry. No, I'm definitely not doing a septic system.
Okay, so you may want to just to revise that for the record.
Yeah.
My other question, the
letter from Norse Environmental identifies soils in the backyard as Kenton, Charlton Urban Land Complex, and recognizes that it is well-drained soils. We didn't have an auger with us, and I know you're kind of in a wetland zone, and the topography does kind of slope down. I was wondering if you know, if Norse is still here, maybe they could answer this. If they confirmed in the field what the soils were, and if any of the engineers have done any permeability or infiltration tests just to make sure that the proposals for infiltrating rainwater and whatnot would actually succeed, and that the soils are.
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, actually, it wasn't Norse, but it was, oh boy, now I'm forgetting who the surveyor and the civil engineer was. But yeah, they came and did soil tests, which is what drove the design of the infiltration system and the declaration of the minimum grade height. So that was in fact, and as a matter of fact, I was under the impression that it's a part of the report, but stand by, let me see if I can find that. Sorry, so it's not?
Yeah, no, there's information in there. I couldn't tell if it was, if these were actual in the field measurements, or if these were just, calculations or
Sure, yeah.
model projections.
No, there was soil tests done. Yep. Okay. So that was contingent on the design of the infiltration, yeah. Or rather, yeah, that's what it is. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Tony? Tony?
Me, Tony, or Tony?
What? Oh, I'm sorry, that's a good point. Any more questions from the commissioner, Tony?
I'm speaking for myself. No, I have no further comments.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, before I ask some questions, I've got a direct question to Chuck, just for historical reasons. Chuck, I'm assuming that for the same reason we like to see a strip by a VBW, would it be any different for a bank historically? Is that something the commission typically looks for?
Yes.
Okay, great. It was good to meet you on the property, have a look at it. I want to echo what Andrew said about the shed and greenhouse. That's very important to us that be moved. Now, with respect to the shed, if you have to have a shed, we definitely want it out of that 35-foot area, not just the 25-foot area. And if you happen to be in the meeting earlier, you'll know we talked to another applicant about the fact that we do like to see appropriate vegetation along the resource area. Now, looking behind the shed where it currently is, the soil is bare, lack of sunlight and so forth. And bare soil from our perspective is about the least desirable thing you can have by a resource area, bank or anything else. And so if you happen to hear earlier, we do look for a 3-layer approach, herbal or near the ground, shrubs and trees, a mix. Chuck has material that can describe the kind of plants we look for, and we would want to see something there besides turf grass in a strip of at least, earlier tonight we were talking about a 5-foot there. And looking at that bare soil, that is several feet of bare soil. Once you move that shed, there's going to be even more bare soil. So all the more reason to look at it that way. And those were my primary concerns about shoring that up. And of course, we're looking at quite a bit of construction here. I was looking at your map, and this is the proposed site plan, and it happens to have a stockpile area. So if you could talk a bit about that stockpile area is a ways from the street. In fact, looking at this map in front of me, the stockpile area is actually closer to the 35-foot buffer, for example, than it is to Temple Street. So if you could talk about that, and I'll just say as a preface that we really like to see the stockpile as far away from the resource area as possible. We also like to know how it's going to be managed on a daily basis to protect the resource areas. So if you could talk a bit about that stockpile area, appreciate that.
Sure. So I suppose it was placed in a spot that had sufficient room for what we thought we needed. I'm not sure that there was a lot else that drove the location. Certainly being cognizant of the wetlands or the buffer zones is reasonable. Oh, thanks, Chuck.
So yeah, I guess I don't have a problem seeing about shifting that stockpile area to the north border of the property. You know, the conflict with the driveway that will be at least partially under construction, as well as the fence that's being replaced, it may be in the way, but certainly I can prioritize getting it at least moved to the north, so that it's not either on top of my driveway or my neighbor's properties, but also is further away.
Right, and
Actually,
it's,
on the north side, maybe it's even closer. I'm not sure. Yeah.
yep, I appreciate that. And something else Chuck often mentions is when you have this kind of situation, again, is something we want you thinking about daily, but that includes, are you getting any runoff into the street? Is regular street sweeping necessary during the project and so forth? Let me just ask, how long do you anticipate this project to last?
I mean, depending on when we start and how much weather we're fighting, hopefully not more than 8 months. But that might be optimistic. But yeah, that's at least what the plan that we discussed with contractors has looked like so far.
Right. And so as you can appreciate, when you're looking at an 8-month period in our very much 4-season climate, and
Sure.
we need to be thinking about the resource area, you really have to have a maintenance plan. But
Yep.
I'll stop there and turn it over to Brian.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
To continue what Bill was talking about, so with the stockpile area, it'd be good to have some kind of erosion control or something around it to keep it contained. But another question is, so that's dealing with the material from the tear down. Where are you going to keep the material for the build?
So I guess the plan for tear down, I had sort of assumed that we would be working more directly in the driveway. I had assumed the stockpile area would be for probably either build or even just overflow. But yeah, I guess the plan, so long as it's not interfering with the construction of the driveway, would be to primarily use the driveway as much as possible.
Well, so I'm trying to figure out how that goes. So you're gonna get down first, presumably. The material's gonna go somewhere. So are you gonna leave it on site in a pile until you're all done with the tear down?
Yeah, so I guess I had assumed that we would be working with dumpsters and maybe doing sort of partially so that we could just get the dumpsters out of there and not really end up. My desire is not to stockpile any waste at all. In my mind, that stockpile area is exclusively for material, and again, or for overflow material, whatever. But the plan that I have been talking with the contractor on involves, removal of waste basically in a dumpster directly. Obviously, that's the plan. But
you said you prefer that, but is it actually what you're going to do? Is it what you're going to commit to doing?
I'm happy to commit to that and talk to the contractor about driving that as the plan of record there. But yeah, I guess it's not a decision that I will end up making directly, but it's certainly, or I guess I should say, it's not something I can guarantee you just because I haven't confirmed it with the contractor, but that's what I will be certainly driving. Yeah. Sorry, I guess we're up against what was an assumption of mine as well, and I haven't actually gotten a commitment from my contractor on that, so maybe that's something I need to do.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yep.
So the next step there is typically you bring in the materials for the build earlier as it's available. So if you're still in the process of tearing down and pulling it out, where would you put the lumber and what have you as it came in?
Yeah, I suppose this is going to require some pretty tight scheduling. I don't have a lot of room, right? So that stockpile area, frankly, doesn't even look sufficient for what you might be describing. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that would be there to support what it can and
Okay, so the
quality
bottom
schedule.
line is you should talk to your contractor about that as well.
Yep.
Because there are some logistics involved here. You
Yep.
can't have him just putting things willy-nilly wherever he goes.
Understood.
If he
Understood.
stacks lumber somewhere and it sits there for a while and creates more bare soil underneath, and that would have to be thought about. So
Yep.
you should at least have a plan for it, so you've thought it through.
Sure, I appreciate that. Yep.
So the next thing is going back to the structures, just to reemphasize what Bill was saying.
Mm-hmm.
Structure zone is 35 feet. So I'll be a little bit stronger than they were. The shed will have to be moved or removed. Your choice, not going to design your project for you, but it can't stay there. The greenhouse, you've already said, you're going to move. When we were there, we were talking about the play structure. I'd like to have us have a condition where we say the play structure can stay there until your child gets older, but then have you commit to removing it at that point, because as we discussed when we were there, that is a structure.
Yep. Understood. Yeah. Happy to commit to removal of that swing set as soon as that's reasonable for us. That's no problem for me. I guess I would want to ask about the shed. You know, is it so? This shed was permitted by the town in 1983. I guess does that have no weight with the commission here?
Not with a member of the commission.
Okay.
I mean, it's movable. I don't know how strong it is structurally.
Yeah, right.
There may be some issues with that, but on a personal basis, I had to move a shed once. I know it's doable.
Sure.
Depending on the structure again, but you know, it is right up against that stream back there.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
I just want to assure you, you're not being singled out here in this regard. We've had other property owners in similar layouts have to move the shed. They've examined their property and thought, how can I get that out of the no structure zone? And in cases where they said, yeah, the shed's been there, you know, it was there when I moved in here, but when they come to the commission with a proposal, that's a chance for us to remind them of, well, this happens to be what's here. And again, as I mentioned, you look at the shed right behind it, bare soil, that just sort of emphasizes why we really want it out of that area. So just adding that, thanks.
Sure, appreciate that.
So then the last topics I have to do with the history in the area. You know, even with the time I've been on the commission, there's been a fair number of reports of flooding of yards and what have you in that area. In fact, we've already had one neighbor who has expressed some concerns about flooding caused by this work. Can you
caused by what work?
But by doing this work, by doing, I mean, people get nervous when there's any kind of work because they think that's going to be the straw that causes their yards to flood out. So for the record, can you talk a bit about any thoughts or plans or anything that have been done to not make worse any flooding in that area?
I mean, aside from the fact that I've designed an infiltration system to collect water that is currently not being collected by my house or any other home on the street, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
It seems that infiltration system might do the work that should mitigate that concern. At least I would think.
Yeah, I would think you would also mention that the construction's being done fairly close to the existing footprint, so it's not near that stream. As long as you control materials and debris and such, you shouldn't be making that situation any worse.
Yeah, again, sorry, I had sort of assumed that, but yeah, that's a portion of why the home is not being pushed back at all, further, or rather the entire structure is not being pushed back, right? We're extending slightly, but again, not really too far back. The silt fence and everything seems like it should be adequate to prevent any of the damage that might be caused by any water flowing back there. But yeah,
Okay, no, that's good. I just wanted to ask that. I was waiting for Bill to object for leading the witness.
And I just want to add something for a commissioner who couldn't be here tonight, but it doesn't have to do with you, Tony, as applicant. But for the public record, I just want to state that the property adjacent to yours in that zone of natural vegetation helps make this point. There's wrought iron fencing. There's a low stone wall, et cetera, et cetera. Just want you to know that if that property was making a request, that's one of the first things we'd say has to change. And that's a way, again, of showing you're not being singled out. We realize you have control over an adjacent property, but it's kind of a nice example of precisely what we can't have by a resource area like this. And that's my only comment on that. Thanks.
Okay, so that's my comments. Anything for you, Chuck?
No, you guys have covered it. I will go over some of the, before we turn it over to anyone in attendance tonight. May want to make comments. We have a 5-foot buffer strip in the back along the entire bank. Move the shed outside the 35-foot area. Street sweeping each night to ensure that there's no sediment getting into the storm drains or down the street. Move the stockpile area closer to the street. That would be Temple Street. And I think the last was, Tony, I just wanted you to chime in. Were you satisfied with the soils being confirmed that was from on-site tests, or do you need some more information on that?
No, if those are from on-site tests, then that's fine.
Okay. So
I think it's in the applicant's best interest to have that sorted out. Otherwise, his yard's going to flood.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll thank Chuck for pointing me to getting that investigated first. So thank you all.
The last condition I can think of is removing of the greenhouse, which you already had planned to do, but just to make sure we have it right. Okay. Any questions, comments from the general public on Zoom?
In the reaction buttons, just click on that and use the raise hand function. Is anyone who would like to make a comment about this project?
Okay, not seeing any indications then. I think you're at the point where we can close the hearing. Can I have a motion to close the hearing on Temple?
Is there any information you want to review? Planting plan, for instance?
That's a good suggestion. Very carefully done. So what Chuck was just suggesting carefully was we talked about a strip along the bank of some plantings. So we do want to see a planting plan ahead of time. And what we have been doing is allowing you to work with Chuck for suggestions on the plants, to get some advice on the different layers that Bill was talking about. So we would like to see the planting plan. It doesn't necessarily have to hold this up as long as you get it to Chuck in a timely fashion and he agrees with it.
Sure, I appreciate that. I guess I did have one comment to that. When you guys were there, I spoke with, I guess, the visitors and then also with Martha, who's not here, but you guys obviously observed the, I guess I'll say, overwhelming knotweed situation that we have here, both in my yard, on the edge of the stream, and on the other side of the stream. I guess I feel like we talked a little bit about it, but is there any way that there's any guidance to be provided for how to manage either removal or replace, or I guess what the proper plantings might be to combat that, or am I hopeless with knotweed over here?
You're not hopeless, but like we discussed when we were there, it's a persistent little
Yeah.
bugger.
Yeah.
And we pointed you to the net for suggestions on ways to attack it and when.
Yeah,
believe
okay.
Tony actually suggested the
Mass Audubon.
Yeah.
as he
Oh,
said.
Mass Audubon, you said? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mass Audubon has some pretty good resources for invasive species and how to best manage and control them.
Awesome. That's been a
Timing.
big driver. I'm sorry, what was that?
Okay, so the last thing I can remember was Martha talked to you about the application methodology as in cut dab. But other than that, you should go online and educate yourself and you can see the problem you're in for.
All right, great. Thank you. Yeah, that's I knew that this was going to be a part of it, and I'm just concerned about what to put there that's actually gonna work. So thanks. I'll look into that.
Yeah, the Mass Audubon fact sheet will give you information about timing and methods and.
Awesome. Thanks, Tony.
And this is for Tony, the applicant. Before we close this out, I just want to confirm something. So we're asking you to move the shed and the greenhouse out of the no build zone. And you said, you'll look into that. The thing is, if you want us to vote tonight with conditions, I dare say there's enough of us who wouldn't vote for this to go forward unless that shed was going to move. But you, Tony, may not be ready for that. So if you want additional time to think that over, that's fine. And you could say you'd like to continue to a future hearing. I just want to make sure that's clear before we vote to close the hearing.
I appreciate that clarification. Yeah. If approval is the order of the day and it requires removal of the shed, then I think I can see my way to getting rid of the shed if it means that this will get approved tonight.
Right, and Tony, to be clear, you say removal of the shed. It could also be moving of the shed. It just has to get out of that zone. But
Yeah, sure. That's no problem. I have a feeling once I start moving it, the only place it's going is his dumpster, though. So I appreciate that.
okay. Thank you for that clarification, Chuck.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. So, so I wasn't at the site visit, and I heard some discussion about Mr. Silva using herbicides in the wetlands. So we would have to prove that, but I want the commission to know that we haven't ever approved homeowner to spray their own. I mean, hand removal is about as close as we have. I would suggest you approve Mr. Silver, hire a licensed applicator to treat Japanese knotweed out in that area, and possibly usually takes a couple of years to do that, and it's a longer and more expensive method, but it takes a lot of care to make sure that you don't have any overspray, and so that's I don't think we've directed people in the past to do this, and I'm a little weary of it.
No, you're right. In fact, we did talk on the spot about licensed applicator. Tony actually brought it up, so I should remember to say that, but you're right.
Okay.
But we also talked about methods for homeowner application.
Yeah, brushing it on, I believe, was the approach that was discussed.
Not with herbicide
Yeah.
in the resource area. I mean,
Is that something that's in the bylaw?
It's not.
It's a practice.
It's a practice, but it's also something that I don't think we would want to close tonight until Mr. Silver has a treatment plan in front of us to review.
Yeah, so my treatment plan is hand removal. at least for, the majority of the knotweed that is, I guess I'll say, in a portion of my yard around the current greenhouse area. And then I guess along the stream, if it's okay to remove that hand removal is what I would be doing for the most part.
So what do you think you would do, given that your neighbor has at least as much as you do?
It seems like my option would be to remove what's on my property. It's not clear that I could do a lot more unless I had concerted effort across multiple neighbors to.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to you, obviously. I'm just pointing out.
Yeah,
what's
I mean,
that's gonna keep on coming back.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm happy to consult with my neighbors more on it. As far as what a plan is that I could describe to you tonight, it would be hand removal of as much of it as I possibly can. You guys have educated me a little bit on at least the fact that hand removal is the only way to do it. So that's what I've got. So that's my plan.
Okay. So with that, can I have a motion to close the hearing on 15 Temple?
This is Bill McCants. I make a motion to close the hearing on 15 Temple.
This is Tony Rotalakis. I'll second that.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Bill McCants in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. That's unanimous. Okay, that's closing the hearing. So now we will have to vote on the NOI. So we're voting on whether to issue the approval. Have a motion, please.
Can we review the conditions first? Sorry, this is Andy.
Thank you. And Andy, you beat me to it.
So do you want to go over what you have written down, Bill, or I could go over what I have?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Chuck might have been keeping track of the.
Yeah, sure.
I have.
Oh, you, Chuck.
Yeah.
So, sure. So I just added this treatment of invasives with licensed applicator, remove the greenhouse, 5-foot buffer strip.
Along the bank. And again, that would be with herbaceous shrub layer, tree layer. Remove the shed outside 35. Sweep the street, stockpile area closer to the street, and that's what I have. The thing I took off was verifying the soils.
Okay, given that, let's continue to slouch towards Bethlehem. And can I have a motion for approval of the NOI?
Yes, so this is Andrew. I will make a motion to approve the notice of intent for 15 Temple Street with the conditions discussed. I just want to make sure that includes removing or moving the shed. I wasn't sure if you had that one in there, Chuck, but.
Move it outside the 35-foot area.
Or would lose it? Anybody second that?
This is Bill McCants. I'll second the motion.
Andrew Driven in favor.
Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Bill McCants in favor.
Brian Bowe in favor. That's unanimous. Okay, Tony, the applicant, you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Okay. I think that concludes our hearings for the, oh no, I lied. There is another one. There is yet another.
It's like forgetting America itself.
Okay, I'm not gonna touch that one. Okay, next one is opening a hearing on 413 Main Street. Chuck, if you want to bring anything up, I can read the words.
Yeah, Dan, who else is with you?
It's just myself. I'm the only
Okay.
one.
Thanks.
Okay, open the public hearing on a notice of intent filed by McDonald's USA LLC pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Chapter 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and/or the Reading Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 7.1. The applicant proposes to raise and rebuild the existing McDonald's restaurant and site with new plus or minus 3,970 square foot building with a side-by-side drive-through and other associated improvements Portions of the work are within a 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland and intermittent stream. The application and plans can be viewed during regular business hours at the Town Hall Conservation Office. Assessors map 17, lot 64, 85, file number 270-0774. Having said that, Dan, you want to walk us through what you planned?
Yeah, yep, yeah, am I okay to share my screen here?
Yes, you are.
All right. As was mentioned, this project involves the existing McDonald's at 413 Main Street here. Just give you a rundown of how the site kind of works today. Have the existing restaurant, and they have a single order drive-through, one order point and one window here. And they've got entrance only driveway to Main Street, and then the full access to Bolton, and then also the exit only as well. The resource area that's applicable here is that there's a stream kind of to the rear, and then there's actually a large, I think 4x6 underground culvert kind of highlighted in yellow here. And on each end here is kind of the open channel. So down kind of the bottom of the screen, it's the start of the flow, and then exits out kind of towards the rear of the property here. What McDonald's, and I kind of show you what that kind of looks like. So this is the outlet kind of right behind the property. I know a few of you, we met out there earlier this week to review it. And then this is just what that other side of that fence looks like, where it's really just built out right to the retaining wall along the property boundary here. So what McDonald's is proposing to do is just raise and rebuild their existing site. As you can see here, the building is going to be generally in the same location, just like to the left of the culvert as exists today, and this culvert is proposed to be maintained. The real intent of this project is to improve their kind of drive-through operations with a dual order point side-by-side drive-through. As today, they only have like a single order, so the side-by-side really improves kind of the drive-through operations and efficiencies. And in addition, instead of just that single window where the people pay and pick up their food, they'll have a cash window first and then the pickup window following here. The site improvements, they're going to be removing that plate circulation lane to really just help anybody who's trying to circulate the property. Doesn't have to go out the main street. So they can kind of stay on the property and reduce any impacts to traffic out there. The driveways are really proposed to be maintained as exists today. And then overall, the site's going to reduce impervious coverage by 3,700 square feet. So it's going to be a significant reduction, and we're really proposing to kind of maintain the existing drainage patterns out there today, where portions of the property are draining directly into the culvert. And then kind of a small portion out to the front here drains into the system in the right of way, and then the rest kind of sheet flows out the full access drive here. The kind of jurisdictional buffers, and we met with the town early on back in March just to get initial feedback, and talking to Chuck, he'd identified like, yeah, you'll be within the 25-foot natural vegetation buffer, 35-foot no structure, and then the 100-foot here. Originally, we were kind of proposing to maintain the kind of drive aisle up to that retaining wall and fence, and kind of taking in Chuck's kind of feedback. He was looking for more of a buffer, so we've been able to give them a 3 to 4 foot buffer, where we kind of reduced our building size a little bit to accommodate that. I think that's really generally the overall kind of site improvements here. So we'd be requesting relief for not providing that full natural vegetated buffer within here, and then also do have a couple of structures with a new fence along the property boundary, as well as some of the drive-through equipment here. But overall, the impervious coverage is being reduced within that both of these buffers by 200 and 280 square feet, and then we're also providing some additional plantings. here. As far as stormwater treatment go, there's gonna be two proposed stormwater quality units. As you can see here, this area is being drained to this catch basin and we run through the oil and grit separator here. And then we've also shown one at the kind of front of the property where that second connection is proposed into the culvert there. So overall, the kind of stormwater peak flow rates and volumes are going to be reduced from all our design points here in kind of compliance with those standards. And again, this is really a redevelopment where we look to meet the standards to the maximum extent practicable. And I think that's really kind of the overall summary of what McDonald's is looking to do out here. Just for reference, we went to the ZBA and were approved for a variance for the drive-through use. And we'll also be going to the CPDC next month for our first hearing with them as well. So I'm happy to open up the board, open it up to any questions you guys have.
Okay, thank you. Andrew, do you want to start us off?
Sure, well, thank you for the presentation. This has got a lot of information, but I think the big point here is that little zone in the back where we have the intermittent stream and our buffer zones, the 25-foot and the 35-foot.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have a number of how much square footage falls within that 25-foot and 35-foot zone, that little radius there?
Total?
Yeah.
Yeah, total, I can give you a quick number here. So it's probably about 1,000 within the 35-foot, and then about 2,000 total within that 35, and then 1,000 within the 25.
So that little radius is about 1,000 square feet in the 25-foot?
Yeah.
So you're saying total is 3,000?
It's 2,000 within the 35, and then 1,000 about within the 25.
Okay. And then the proposed for the variance, we're reducing the amount of impervious compared to what is there today by 300 square feet?
Yeah, within the 35-foot, it's about 280, and then within the 25, it's around 200.
Well, that's within, how about within the 100 square, within the 100-foot zone? How much more impervious is there compared to what there is today?
Within the 1,000 foot, I believe.
The 100-foot.
Yep, the 100 foot. Sorry about that. Let's see what the number here. I don't have the number off the top of my head, or on my notes here, but it is a pretty significant reduction. I know because all out here today where this kind of landscaping is proposed, that's all pavement. So 1,000, I'd probably say over probably 2,000 square feet. Probably.
Yeah. So I think if we continue this, I'm not sure where it's going, but I'd like to get hard numbers on what the number of existing. So that with the 2,000 square feet of 35, just some clarification on the numbers. But it include the entire jurisdictional area that we're concerned about, so the 100-foot. So how much is being changed from existing to proposed?
Gotcha.
This is just if I'm just looking at the 300 square feet of reduction of impervious area, what we have over, a couple thousand that we're talking about, the numbers don't quite add up. But I think if you look within the full 100-foot area, the numbers will be more beneficial to you. So that's just some clarification on the numbers.
Yep.
I appreciate that you were able to get a little vegetation on that back wall. For my own, I know it's silly, but for my own liking, because the whole thing kind of I would like to see some sort of landscaping change just right where the culvert is. So right now, we just have that line. I don't know what I'm thinking, to be honest, just a different plant, just something so that it acknowledges that, hey, behind this fence and these plants, there is a stream that goes underneath.
Yeah, so you're saying like right along the culvert? there?
Yeah, yeah,
Gotcha. Just to identify, hey, there's like something different here.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty easy thing that we could potentially do.
Yep.
And then looking at my understanding of the lighting plan, is there any lighting that we need to kind of concern ourselves about going? I'm assuming all of the lighting is really focused towards the structure and the driveway, but I just want to confirm that there's no lighting that's going to be going back towards the back neighbors' yards and the stream there.
Yeah, so I believe, sorry, the screen's frozen here for a second. I'm gonna try to reset it. Give me a second here. But yeah, we look to limit spillage to the rear of the property there. I know that was considered, and we'll also be installing a 12-foot high fence along the majority of it to the right with the butter. So that should definitely prevent a lot of the spillage there, potential spillage. Let's try to bring this back up. Sorry about this.
Yeah, no worries. But while we're thinking, that's my last question, so we could pass it on to the next commissioner.
Okay. Dan, do you want any more time to reshare, or should we go on with our questions?
You can continue with your questions as I bring this up. Yep, no problem.
Okay, Tony?
Okay, thanks for coming in, Dan. Andrew, I'm glad you raised the questions about lighting. I was going to ask those if you didn't. I would like to know though how concrete are the lighting designs? Are you limiting the spectrum? Is there some type of management of direction so that any light that is being and any lighting is directed downward toward the ground surface? What types of controls are you planning?
Yeah, so those the lighting fixtures themselves are shielded, so they're all down lighting. I believe the height of the proposed ones will be 21-foot mounting height, but they'll all be down, kind of down and shielded along the side and rear. I can show you the lighting plan here actually, so you can see some of the foot candles from it. Is that coming in?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So like right along the property line here, you can see it's about around 1 to 2 there, but I don't believe that considers kind of the 12-foot high fence that's proposed up to this point.
And are those LEDs? I'd assume they are at this point.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And do you know what color they are? Or are they mimicking daylight? Are they more of a narrow spectrum?
I'm not exactly sure on that. I'd have to double check the specs on it, but I could definitely let you know.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I'd like to see.
Yep.
I was also glad to see that there is a reduction in impervious surface to allow more infiltration. I'm wondering if you have any information on the underlying soil chemistry. Is there any evidence of previous releases of chemicals or fill that might be in the soil that, if exposed to oxygen and rainwater, could cause chemicals to leach out and get surface water? I want to make sure that by removing the pavement, we're not exacerbating or creating a new condition.
Gotcha. So I know we did test pits out there, and we kind of identified that there's about probably 3 to 4 feet of fill, and then it gets down to kind of glacial outwash before that. But I'm not sure of any investigation into the chemistry of those actual soils. But so we really, it's just the geotech like test borings that we had. So I'd have to look into, follow up with McDonald's to see if there's any further, kind of investigation done for that.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to know about that also. Looking ahead a little bit to trash management and animal control, could you speak to those subjects? Making sure
So
that
the
trash
what was the
does.
second thing?
Sorry, go ahead.
What was the second item there?
Animal control, rodents, non-wetland species, for the most part.
Gotcha. So the proposed trash enclosure, we're proposing to reconstruct it. Here it'll be fully enclosed structure where it currently exists today. It's about in the same location. Not sure of any specific rodent prevention other than the dumpsters being closed. Not sure what else you may be like looking for there. Can provide a detail of the structure itself. Yeah, so it's really kind of like a Trex fence, gate. But yeah, not sure if there's any other real kind of animal prevention there other than.
I mean, even just general housekeeping. You know, I'm sure McDonald's, you know, has standard operating procedures for when the trash gets put out and how often the dumpsters get removed. But I'm also thinking about customers that may not be so careful with some of their waste.
Gotcha. Oh, so you're kind of like more like overall general maintenance and kind of site cleanup.
Yeah, general maintenance, housekeeping.
Basis.
Yeah, those types of issues to limit the amount of trash that would be going down catch basins or that could be blowing into the, you know, into the stream.
Gotcha. I'd have to follow up with the operator to kind of see how they kind of handle that today, and kind of their schedule on their kind of site cleaning and just general maintenance. But I can definitely get back to you with kind of their schedule for that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All set, Tony? Take that as a yes. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Dan, for the review. Just want to drill down a little bit on the stormwater. And you did mention, as you were doing your overview, that the stormwater management systems are designed so that post-development peak discharge rates do not exceed pre-development peak discharge rates. And of course, it's always good to remove impermeable surfaces, but then you have to be thinking about discharge rates. Do you happen to know, I'm sure it's in the documentation somewhere, but do you happen to know offhand what the difference will be? You say that it's not just that the post-development peak discharge will not exceed, but that it's somewhat less. Did I get that right?
Yeah, so they're the pre and post development rates will all be reduced for the kind of 3 design points.
Right, and is that partly due to the BMPs you're putting in? That is, you're upgrading essentially the stormwater best management practices?
Yeah, so overall, I mean, today under existing conditions, kind of the survey here, there are like the site cheat flows into these catch basins and then it's just directly into the culvert here. So as part of the proposed design, we are now providing stormwater quality units prior to that water getting in there. So it will be like an overall improvement to what's existing out there today.
Okay, yeah, that was the impression I had, but I just wanted to hear that from you. And then my other question in your overview touches on this, but you know, you're required, it's redevelopment, of course, but if full compliance with the standards cannot be achieved, you're implementing the highest practicable level of stormwater management. Could you talk a little bit about, you know, were you involved in that process? Who was consulted and what was decided on to meet that goal of the highest practicable level of stormwater management, given it's a redevelopment project?
Yeah, so given it's a redevelopment, we've looked to kind of obviously reduce the flow rates and volumes and then provide the additional stormwater quality units. potential infiltration, we had reviewed it. There's ledge along kind of the outer portion of the property here. I think it's 6 to 8 feet below. So, and kind of along the left side of the building, we've got a good number of the utilities running there, so we are a bit constrained. And then just working against some of the topography on the site, it kind of made it difficult to provide kind of additional infiltration. I know the city was looking for that as well. To where over here, it's really tough to have a emergency outlet structure proposed, where this is all just kind of cheap flowing off the site as it does today.
Right, and given the nature of the business, can have a lot of traffic volume and so forth. And how do you ensure that you're going to be able to, and when I say how do you ensure, I mean, what kind of procedures do you have in place for the routine operation and maintenance you need for these stormwater handling systems? You know, that you have access to it when you need it, that kind of thing, for cleaning, et cetera, maintenance.
Yeah, so I know the one up front here is kind of located within a landscape island, so there's not as much issue with the maintenance on this front one. One to the rear, they wouldn't go out there during lunchtime or anything to clean that, so that would likely be done in off business hours, or not like low volume times of the day.
Right.
But I'd assume they do it in off peak, not to impact any of the operations, kind of with how their the drive-through is the majority of their business goes through there.
Right, and just given the volume of the documentation we have here, if you could sort of direct our attention to what really focuses on that operation and maintenance of those systems, that would be helpful. You don't have to do it right now. It's something you could, you know, direct to Chuck, and then he could just say, hey, and these documents look specifically here for O&M of the stormwater system, that would do it.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know we had included the CDS's system maintenance manual in the back of the drainage report.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful then.
Yeah.
Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a few questions pertaining to keeping materials out of the culvert during your construction phase.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is, can you talk to us a bit about what your plans are for the fence that runs along the back of the property?
Yep. So the fence towards the rear here, it exists. I think we've shown those photos. Bring this up again. Oh, but sorry, that other one isn't there. But the existing kind of fence towards the rear here, it's going to be fully replaced. I'm not sure in the exact phasing of when that existing one would be removed relative to kind of the rest of the construction. But I figure they would leave the existing kind of stockade fence up for the majority of it. And then likely towards the end, the fence would be installed.
So my question is more focused on what measures will you folks be taking to keep pieces out as that fence is removed?
You're saying so when the removal and the kind of construction of the fence, kind of protecting the stream there in the back?
Yes.
Gotcha. I'm not sure the exact measures the contractor would utilize, kind of given this situation, but I can certainly follow up with them to get an idea on what they would propose there.
I mean, I don't know, would they put a mesh net on the outside? I don't know what they would do, but.
I mean, I'd figure with kind of like the stone walls on each side, they likely would cover that. There would be some coordination, obviously, with the abutting property owner, who we've been in discussions with the project already over the past couple months on. So we could look to coordinate with them on kind of doing some additional kind of soil erosion or construction prevention measures there from impacting that stream.
Okay, so if you could find out whatever you can and let us know, that would be helpful. In the same vein, can you talk to us about measures that will be taken? I'm assuming that the parking lot's going to be chewed up and then relaid. So how do you control all the bits and pieces as it's being chewed up?
So the full parking lot is going to be replaced with new section of pavement. We provided the O&M plan where we'll be adding the inlet protection into those existing catch basins out there before those are removed, and then under proposed conditions, when the new catch basins installed, we'll be adding those in as well. And then along the perimeter, providing a silt fence there.
So how will you keep that from spitting debris into the culvert beside the property? I mean, remember when we were there and I was asking if you had any idea of how much spray or material there was around the edges of the grinders, or I just don't have a picture of that. I do know that when they're working on roads, as they clean up in the morning for the work they just did, they have a street sweeper come in to clean up all that kind of material. I'm wondering if you have anything like that in mind.
I'm not too certain on any equipment or additional equipment they may use or kind of measures they would take for that. I mean, it would be the silt kind of inlet protection here really is what's going to prevent that from any material making it into that system.
Yeah, my understanding is you're going to keep that concrete lip that the fence posts currently go into.
Yep.
So that would help to some extent. That's actually what prompted me asking how much splatter there is.
Yeah, I'd have to follow up with the contractor to understand that, but I know, as we just mentioned, we'd be looking to likely cover this resource area of the stream back here to kind of capture that.
Then my last topic has to do, you're maintaining the storage culvert or whatever it is that's under the parking lot, is that true?
Yes, yep.
Any idea how old that is? I mean, the building is from the 60s. Is that also from the 60s?
Yeah, so I think it was around the same time as the McDonald's development. I believe the culvert was installed there. We had a company go and CCTV it, and they didn't identify any significant issues within the existing culvert. So we're really looking to maintain and protect it. We've kept the building off of it from providing any additional loads on top. So yeah, it's really just looking to maintain it out there.
Right, and when we were there, you mentioned that the construction crew would be taking measures not to add load to it. So what kind of measures is that?
I need to follow up specifically on that, but.
So the way you said it, I interpret it as keeping heavy trucks off, for example. Is that something that you would be doing?
Yeah, I mean, when they can, obviously for like the paving and stuff, they'll need to go over it. But yeah, for the most part, they'll be following the kind of our geotech's recommendations to not add any additional loads, including like they're placing equipment there or anything, yes.
So what do you think the lifetime expectations is of that concrete container?
Of the culvert?
Yeah.
I'm not too certain. I need to follow up with our team on that, or the geotech who had the team who had CCTV'd it, if they had any additional thoughts on what they saw.
So you brought up this idea of a CCTV. So you did a scan, if you will, beforehand. That makes sense. Are there any plans to do a scan afterwards to be sure that there wasn't damage caused?
Yeah, I believe the town had discussed that at our staff meeting, wanting to make sure, yeah, there's no impacts, but yeah, it's just, we'd be able to CCTV it following it to kind of confirm, hey, yeah, there's no damaged sections or anything from construction.
But you'd be able to, but do you think the actual plan is to do that?
Yes, yeah, it can be, yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking for something a little more definitive than can be or could be able to. I'm looking for, yes, we will do that or something like that.
Yes, we will do that, yes, we will do that. We figured that would also come up at the CPDC meeting as well, and they were gonna request the same thing there.
Okay, we might as well jump the gun on them then.
No problem.
So I'm set with that. Chuck, do you have anything you want to get into?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the arborvitae and the switchgrass in the back along the fence. I think it is it's a good improvement to what was there. I mean, this project was,
a concrete desert. So brought a little bit of life to it, and I think the plan works also that you guys came up with. I was just wondering, knowing with the plowing and whatnot that happens, if there's a plan after this McDonald's is open again to replace those as they either die off or get hit by customers and plows.
You're just specifically talking about the shrubbery and landscaping there?
I am, because I think that's in an area that would probably get forgotten about.
Gotcha. I don't believe there's any plan in place currently to replace those. No, I mean, they would just be installed, and I think the snow storage locations.
Yeah, I saw those. They're on the side. Yeah.
Yeah, relatively kind of middle here.
Yeah, one's at the far end of the arborvitae.
Yeah.
So all those plantings, or a lot of them, that I talked about along the fence and in the where the drive aisle is, it would be a good idea to just write down a 2-year to 3-year planting replacement plan. Part of the acceptance here would be the fact that these are native shrubs in this area within our jurisdiction, and that they will have a chance of surviving. So replacement for, up to the commission, 2 to 3 years, guaranteed. It would be something that I'd like to review on this project, especially if you are just putting them in and then it's up to the operator of the McDonald's to maintain those, because that might not be the first thing on their mind.
Yeah, no, understood on that. We'll definitely follow up with the operator, see if they'd be amenable to that, and get back to you. No problem.
sure. That's what I had. I didn't get a chance to check all the plants out that you proposed. Is it native? Are they all native? And from what you know, is that what you?
Yeah, yep. All the proposed ones are native out there. Yes.
I saw that. Yeah. Tony, sure.
Okay, so Chuck is done. So Tony, what about you?
Chuck, I have a question, and you're probably the best one to answer it. Why does this site not trigger riverfront? The culvert.
So when a culvert is more than 200 feet long, you don't have a riverfront. So this culvert's more than 200 feet long. So the river is non-existent in this area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So are there any comments from the general public out there in Zoom land?
Zoom land.
That would be a no. Okay. So at this point, it sounds like we have a few things that we'd like to see. Planting plan, for example. So what does the commission want to do? Do we want to ask for continuance? Actually, just give me your thoughts on what we want to do next here.
Yeah, we'd be happy to request a continuance from this hearing to the next one, just to kind of gather that additional information you guys are looking for.
Okay, hang on, Chuck.
Oh, and another question. So this isn't through any of the other boards yet. And I'm not sure any changes could come up on this plan that we would want to review. I mean, again, it's pretty much all pavement for us. But Dan, Dan Allen, what do you think about even waiting a little bit longer so we can get at least one of the CPDC meetings under the belt, just to find out that they're okay with this layout?
Yeah, no, yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. Yeah, we'll be planning to meet with them that in their October meeting there, and yeah, I think it would be good to kind of get their comments and your comments together, and then we kind of address everything all at once from there. So we want to continue this out following that October 17th meeting. We'd be okay doing that.
So do you want us to set it for our second meeting in October or our first meeting in November? Only meeting in November.
Yeah, so it would be October 25th, which
I think we look to hold target the 25th for now. I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep.
In that case, I think we're looking for a motion to continue this hearing to October 25th.
can we just go over what were the documents we want?
Absolutely.
Just to get them in the record. So I have I'm gonna call it a vegetation operation and maintenance plan. You can call it anything you want. But just to ensure that, and is the commission looking for 2 or 3 years on this site?
I would say 3.
So we're looking for an operation maintenance plan for survivability of the arborvitae and switchgrass and whatever else is in that center aisle area for 3 years, and just spelled out as a document that we received before the next meeting. And then again, wordsmithing can happen to this also. I have soil investigation documents. So someone asked, I think it was Tony. Tony asked about exposing soil and if there was any documents on the test pit soil to find out if there was any issues within the soil and their characteristics. And then photometric plan, but I know that that's in the notice of intent, so that doesn't need to be part of this. And then hard numbers on impervious, existing and proposed. And then the lighting specs, again, which are about the photometric plan, but I'm not sure if those are 2 separate things. So again, that was Tony. You were looking for what type of lights they were using.
Yeah, the type of lights and the spectrum, the wavelengths, what colors?
Yeah, we can do cut sheets for that. Yep.
All right, that's what I have. If there's anything else.
Anything else anybody can think of that should be on that list? No. Okay, back to looking for a motion to continue to October 25th, given those open items.
I'll make a motion in a second, but before some signification that culvert is there was one of my requests, and I think the easiest way to do that is there's like 2 shrubs that are proposed.
Yeah.
Okay. That was
I'm
it.
supposed to remove them or change them. And then that one's not it's more of a symbolic thing. But I will make a motion to continue the public hearing on 413 Main Street to October 25th.
25th.
October 25th.
I have a second.
Bill McCants, I'll second the motion.
Vote, please.
Andrew
In
Driven.
favor. Tony Rotalakis is in favor.
Bill McCants in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor. That's unanimous.
All right.
Okay, we're good until the 25th.
All right, thanks for the time, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, now we have finished the hearings. The next item on the agenda is asking if there's any update on the Meadowbrook.
No, sorry, yeah, we're still in this holding pattern for the Meadowbrook easement. It actually didn't even come up this week, so I'll keep it on the agenda, but nothing to do at this point.
Then the next item gets us into old new business. First item there has to do with Morgan's Homes Millet. Chuck, do you want to take us through the situation there?
Sure. So DEP, so I sent the commission I sent the commission an email letting them know that DEP called me the day after we approved the minor plan change for moving the wetland mats over by 12 feet and creating another 2,000 square feet of disturbance. DEP said that they couldn't support that as a minor plan change, and they couldn't even support it as a amended plan change. They offered the guidance document that I sent out and also reviewed. Just they said the only thing that could be done with this plan change would be to submit another notice of intent. But the problem with that was they wouldn't allow us to continue with the work that was similar to what the notice of intent was requesting. So that work would have to stop, and it is really the access point between both sides of the construction area. I think that T. Ford was surprised by that phone call with DEP and wanted to think about their response, but after a few days, they decided just to work with what they have. And what they have is the original wetland crossing that we approved in our order of conditions, and they will make it work using that structure from one end to the other. So with that, I'm asking the commission, as the DEP asked me, to rescind our approval of the minor plan change to move the wetland mat
So
as proposed.
one thing I'd like to add before we go forward, which is in the guidance that DEP sent to Chuck, who then passed it on, I was looking for musts and shalls. And there really didn't seem to be any in the key places. It said recommends such and such. The key point there is that their practice is, if it's a policy, they don't put the musts and shalls yet in there yet, which is why I didn't see any. So the fact that it said recommended doesn't really change everything Chuck just said, which is why they wanted us to rescind this.
Yeah, before we go to vote, I understand the state has the last word on this, but first of all, a regulator doesn't issue policy guidance if things are crystal clear. Secondly, I read through this twice, and I don't know, Chuck, if you have a sense. So where was the line? How far could we have gone and this still would have been okay, versus requiring a new NOI?
Yeah,
I'm not saying you know the answer, I'm just saying this doesn't make it clear where that line is.
It's not clear, but they did give an example of a golf course that was proposing proximate alteration. So it could have been avoided. And they said that's not even an amended order of conditions in their opinion. That would have to be a new notice of intent.
Right.
So It was the additional alteration of the resource area that they were calling us out on and said that that couldn't happen.
So it wasn't the square footage, it was actually any alteration.
Two things came up, yeah, any additional alteration, and we were sidestepping the public input process. Those were the two main points. This to me sounded like, because I've heard a lot of these conversations before, two people can read this and come up with a different opinion. Somehow because, Horsley Witten, sometimes this doesn't happen. They sent this, all this new material to DEP, certified mail and PDF, and sent it to someone directly who knew to look for it and then, as they should, reviewed it. So it was highlighted in that fashion also.
Okay.
When I got the call, which was the day after our meeting, they thought we still had another week, or they had another week to get to us. But these things never come in before our meetings for some reason. So,
Got it. Thank
not
you.
that we've had one like this before, but
Okay, so given that, what we're looking to do is to, what's the best word? Rescind or withdraw? Are they interchangeable for this?
withdraw it.
Withdraw. Okay, we're looking to vote on withdrawing that approval that we did for T Ford at Solms Millet. Does anybody have any comments or questions they want to ask? We don't have to go in order. If you have something, please speak up.
Tony's got his hand up.
Tony, thank you. Tony?
Will, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Will the necessity now to use the original crossing affect the project schedule, especially with respect to grant funding?
We're still on schedule. This T Ford's going to work around this, and we should be all set. So it was more convenience, as I understand it.
Okay. What's that, Tony? Anybody else have any questions, comments, complaints, observations? In that case, can I have a motion to withdraw the plan change?
This is Bill McCants. Per DEP's direction, based on their interpretation of state law, I make a motion to withdraw the minor plan change for that's Somes and Morgan Wetland Crossing.
Anybody second?
Andrew Driven, I will second that. And I am in favor.
Tony Rotalake is in favor.
Bill McCants in favor?
Ryan Bowe in favor, and thank you for that motion.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to make that motion.
I figured. Okay, thank you. So next, anything new on 10 Plymouth Drive? I take it no by the comments in here.
No.
Okay. Then we have a number of the ongoing violation notices and such. There's one I'll talk about later in the list, but for now, I can get down to the discussion items. Andy, did you want to give an update on SWEC?
Yeah, it's nice. I'll keep it really quick, but for those who don't know, there was a request for information submitted earlier this month by our town manager looking for proposals of more like a private-public development to see what they would be interested in doing on that land. If anything, we were giving them to the end of the month to get some responses back, and I think we're extending that by a couple weeks. So I suppose it means there's somebody that might be potentially interested in that, which is interesting. And there's also been discussion, which Chuck's familiar with, of trying to get a dog park situated somewhere in that area. And we were going to discuss that tonight at a SWEC meeting, but it was gonna be rescheduled. But I would like to, it has potential conservation depending on where it gets sited. So maybe at a future meeting, it would probably be good to have, I think his name's Steve Cools. He should probably come before us. I don't know if you're in touch with him, Chuck, but he's going all over the place. He's going in front of select board if he can, in front of recreation. He's been in front of SWAC once. He's gonna be coming back. But there's a big push from him in to get us a dog park over there. So that's currently on the table. Other than that, we're just still kind of waiting for, I'm gonna call it the senior center. That's not what it is. But there's a feasibility study being done for that. And we're kind of waiting until they get any response or any answers or suggestions from that study about where the senior center might go. We're kind of assuming that they wouldn't want it over in the SWAC area by Burbank, but we are also leaving it discussion open just in case this feasibility study comes back and says that is absolutely the only place that it should go. Well, then we will, take that into consideration. Yeah, I mean, I've got lots of thoughts about that in terms of as we move forward, but there's nothing pressing right now. I just wanted to give you an update that there is an RFI out there if you haven't checked it out, and that there's this dog park which is happening concurrently with the RFI that's out on the table.
Okay, thanks. Chuck, do you want to talk to the dog park part of it?
Yeah, Andy, I was wondering, you said there's a feasibility study. Does that include the dog park or?
Feasibility is just for the senior, the senior center. They're really looking for where they could put this. So this new or old, either reusing or finding a new site for it. And so that was focused only on that. And there's also discussion of pickleball. There's a lot of pieces juggling in the air right now.
So Andy, I have a question. Do you guys have any target date for when you guys hope to wrap up your assessment?
October? I think it was our
Of
initial.
which year? Okay, no, that's interesting.
We were trying to get it onto town meeting that was gonna be coming up, but so now I think it's as soon as we can, but there's just too many moving pieces. So I don't know what the actual date is now, but if you look at the document, it was by the end of this year.
Okay. Any comments, questions, et cetera?
Me do the dog park thing?
Sure.
Sure. So Stephen Cool is a longtime resident of Reading, and he's been on several boards back in the day, so he knows his way around town hall. And he loves dogs. And what he's looking for is an area in town. And we run into a lot of people that opposed where we've decided to ask about a dog park, but no one says they don't want a dog park in town. It's just not near their house. So, and this happens all the time. It happens to conservation when we ask for a trail or a park or whatnot. So Conservation Trails Committee, probably the Town Forest Committee when they do a new council ring or something like that. Everyone has the same opinion. It's a great idea, but not near me. And so Stephen's looking for 20,000 square feet for a dog park, which would be broken into two sections, a large dog and a small dog park. And the funding is through the Stanton Foundation, and they would pay 90% of the construction. And the town would be on the hook for just 10%. And the funds available are up to $250,000. So this is a paid-for plan that we have here in Reading. And a dog park would be nice. And a lot of people in town would appreciate a dog park because a lot of them can't walk around the town forest because it's just something that they can't do, although their dog could do it. So a fenced-in dog park with amenities in there, water fountain, things to climb up and down, to run around, to run back and forth, and to be social with other dogs is healthy for dogs and healthy for the dog owners also. So we've looked at many places around. Birch Meadow was the latest. We've looked at Washington Park, Hunt Park. We've looked at the Sweck area. Trying to stay away from conservation sensitive areas, and still looking for anything new that we don't know about. But you're right, he's giving a presentation to Sweck coming up, and he has a lot more details about what's needed, but it's not going to be, according to Stevens, dog parks aren't filled with people and dogs all day long. It's usually 5 or 6 cars, a couple hours each or less, and then they move on. It would have the same rules and regulations as the parks, and so there wouldn't be any issues there. And the one other thing that I want to mention on this little brief review of dog parks in town is that the Stanton Foundation grant sunsets in December. So that's why you'll see a lot of Stephen, Mr. Cool, going to many boards, because he wants to give it 100% before this opportunity, takes off and has left the town of Reading and every other town in Massachusetts. So that's what I know about it, but it would be a good idea to get Stephen in here and fill in all the blanks that I miss.
And here I was thinking I was Mr. Cool.
That's right.
Anyway, anything else on dog parks, dog loofahs?
I will add so I have seen, because he was going to propose to Sweck, so there were some materials going around from Mr. Cool about where he would like to see it. And there is another potential site that we own, that we bought when we bought the Sweck land, that is very hard to access, that would require a good discussion from us. But I was hoping to discuss that when he presented at Sweck today, but I didn't get that chance to. So I don't know exactly the best way to go about that. I guess I could reach out to him outside of the commission meetings, but
yeah,
I think it's a really great potential use, especially since it's of urgency for him to try to get this application out. And it's really on us to see if we can make it work. But there's a lot of land that's basically landlocked north of the baseball field at the Sweck. And I don't think we would need to make a roadway there. We would have to find some way of getting across so that the dogs and the DPW could get over there. But that would be much better than putting it in the Sweck area, since there's so much uncertainty, the Sweck area proper next to Burbank, because there's just so much uncertainty about what's going to happen over there. I don't think Mr. Cool's going to get a solid answer by the end of this year. So, again, that's what I would like to see Mr. Cool kind of address. And it seems like, Chuck, you might be in contact with him, but if we could get him here and discuss some of those possibilities, because Chuck, I know you know the policy behind those, or some of the red tape we're going to have to go through if we go that route.
So who should be the one?
We discuss it now since we're not looking at anything, but that's where I would like to see the discussion going.
Okay, so who should be the one who reaches out to Mr. Cool about coming here?
So I since you're on the committee and you're going to be reviewing this, you might want to reach out to the chair of the committee to see if you could, but otherwise I could ask Mr. Cool to come to our meeting and just let him know that.
Okay. So
it's
Andy,
some questions.
you take that on? Will you reach out to your chair?
Yep. No, I'll reach out to Mr. Cool and see if he can come to
Never
this meeting.
mind, Chuck is taking on this task.
Yeah.
All right.
With a big smile on his face. Okay,
Hey, I love dogs too.
next item, Keolis MBTA violation discussion. All right. Actually, again, Chuck, why don't you give us the update since you got the latest?
Sure. So I sent out an email late. It's just Keolis is committed to working with the town of Reading. This is a from their wetland sustainability manager, Elaine Baker. She says that although Keolis is committed to working with the town of Reading, on any clearing or any work in town. And they completely understand, what mistakes had been made, that they can't make our September 6th conservation meeting because their potential hurricane and the bad weather. So their crews are out straight, and the people that were going to be here tonight are needed. So they asked if they could join one of our next meetings in a month, and if that was possible. But in the meantime, they've put down straw mulch and upland seed mix, and have been applied to the upland areas, and they're working on updating the maps as requested. So they would like a month to come to our next meeting. But during that month, myself and Elaine were going to work on updating those maps. And so I obviously would start with me, and I would send the maps to them throughout the town, along the train, the tracks there. And then by the time that was done and incorporated into a draft plan for themselves, it would be about a month. That's kind of what we thought. And everything that they do at Keolis has to be approved by the MBTA. So it's going to take a little bit longer than just, a two-way conversation. It's probably a 3 or 4-way conversation that she has to have.
So presumably at some meeting, in not the distant future, they'll have an updated plan for us to approve, disapprove.
Review and approve and highlight other spots that may be missed on that. But I think I would circulate it to the Kids Commission before, we get to the plan, so maybe we can expedite this. Another thing came up during the meeting. I got a call from a butter to the tracks that's up the street with his business. And he was disappointed that we had stopped this work from happening. And I let them know that, we really didn't stop them. It's just that they need a permit, and we needed an opportunity to review this as any commission would ask for. And that's all they're doing. And he understood that. He understood the process. And Keolis understands the process too. But the work that some of you may have heard about that, I originally thought it was just that 200 feet that was right there, and then everyone checked out. They intended to go way up as far as, I don't know, Main Street, I guess, from what I hear from this gentleman. And so that came up in our conversation. They're absolutely not doing that until they talk to the Conservation Commission or any other ditch work here in Reading. But understanding that ditch work needs to be done in Reading, and that they do need to maintain their ditches.
So where is the business located for the person who his complaint started the ball rolling anyway?
So there's like a commercial complex just right up the tracks, or you would get in there through General Way. Is it General Way? It's New Crossing Road.
New Crossing Road, and then going to the right?
Going to the right.
Okay.
And he's right in there, or you would have to come in through the electric company.
So with the work they actually did before they stopped, they did clear the mouth of that culvert. So he probably is getting some relief.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I guess they were out there when it was raining, and they said they mentioned the culvert a couple times, which is a problem. The culvert's owned by the town. There's no plan on working that culvert.
Mhm.
And I've been to this person's business also, and I can tell you that it does flood in that area just from rainwater and not being able to infiltrate into the ground. So yeah, there's some issues, and everyone thinks like, oh yeah, it's because the culvert's so small, or because of this. Who knows what it really is? But when you're fixing roof leaks, the first thing you do is everything obvious. And I think that's what Keolis does when they're trying to figure out how to get water to flow from here to there. So they hit the obvious stuff first, and they'll come back around and maybe dial it in a little bit.
So getting the new map clearly is a big part of this. Although I would dearly love to know why they were working with a map that didn't have it, that was obsolete. Do we have any idea of how long an approved map is valid for?
So every year they send out a yearly operational and maintenance plan. And they're saying we have an opportunity to review the map at that point. But the last time we did it was in 2017, and that commission concentrated on the Millet Psalms and Morgan area because it was kind of like a topic of conversation and people are out there. But they talked about the rest of the line also, and people thought they got it right. One of the things I was going to do and didn't have a chance to is to either review those tapes to see what we talked about or find that map, because I was here on the commission. It really wasn't that long ago, because I can't imagine we missed all these spots.
And
It
the
just
map
seems-
she showed us.
It seems unusual.
That Elaine showed us was actually dated 2014.
Yeah.
So the idea that we would get a yearly chance to review it, it seems unlikely that there'd be no changes since 2014.
So that maintenance may include ditch clearing, but they only talked about vegetation removal when they came to the commission.
Okay. All right, so there's clearly things to work on there. All right, anything else on that topic? Any questions? Hearing none and watching the clock. So next one is 30 Henzie. This is me. I'll be brief. We actually had 3 houses on Henzie where we had issues. The other 2 have been resolved, at least the second middle one. They promised to resolve it in October. We'll see. But this one is 30 Henzie. This was the initial place that we visited. A tree fell down on their property, partially on their deck. In the course of dealing with that, we saw that their shed is actually on town property, in the back of their property. We gave them a year to move it. That didn't happen. And so finally managed to talk with the homeowners and cut to the chase. Due to health and age issues, they would like us to consider it remaining there for as long as they are at the property. Pluses and minuses to that, always concerned about setting or continuing precedents, sorry. Additionally, there's concern about people walking around a shed, and does that cause any damage? In this case, it's on town property. It's near a drainage channel, which was blocked until recently when the Good Samaritan cleared it out. So there's no buffer strip of any kind on that bank. So I guess my point in coming to you guys is to say, do we want to give them the benefit of having the shed there until they leave the property one way or another? Or do we want to insist that they move it? I do get the impression that if absolutely pushed, they would move it. This is where I have to watch my empathetic streak, because I am inclined to let them keep it there, but obviously it's up to you folks. So any comments or anything on that? Quickly, you have 3 seconds.
Yeah, so the.
So I'm not familiar with the history of this one, but I'm just looking at Google Earth real quickly, and that shed looks like it was built in the last 10-ish years. It's not like one that's been there for decades and decades. Am I correct about that assessment?
You know, I don't know the answer to that. I don't get that impression, though.
You think it's been there?
I think it's been there longer. I don't know that. Perhaps I should just ask them, but, or we can check our own aerial photographs back in time and see what that shows.
Yeah, they get blurry, so you can't really tell, but it seems to me like it's really between 2011 and 2013.
Okay.
So it wasn't there, and then it was. So given that, I would still push them. It's not like it's Because I know the only other one I'm aware of is the one on Bond Street, and I walk by that one with my dogs, and that is, an old shed that was not built in the past 15 years.
That is true.
So it doesn't seem to be parallel to this one unless, I mean, so is there a permit, like the one that came up earlier, was there a permit? I can't imagine that would have been a permit that allowed them to build it in conservation land, but I guess it happens, right? So was there a permit on the table?
So
for the
Chuck
shed?
is shaking his
No.
head, no.
There was no permit. We looked into that so it came to the Conservation Commission, and the commission at that time decided to give a certain amount of time in order to allow them to get their thoughts together about it, which was, what, a year and a half or something like that?
Now it's a year and a half.
Year and a half to move the shed. And so Brian went back with that decision out there, and the shed's still there at this point.
Bill?
Well, we ask people on a regular basis to move sheds out of the ZNV, much less a resource area, so.
Tonight, for example.
Yes,
Yes.
twice. Well, no, you know what I mean. In the
Yes, I
last,
do.
if you look at the last few months, it's happened several times. Thinking about the one over by, one of the conservation areas, that we did not long ago. So understand about empathy, very concerned about precedent. So I tend to be with Andrew on this, that I do think we need to push, just because this is all public, as it should be, and you know, we want to try to be consistent with residents. Now, if they have, I don't know what kind of special waiver they could get based on their inability to move it, but it seems to me that doesn't have to come from us. If they want to appeal to some other town body, if this is age, for example, get elder services involved and so forth, that would buy time, sure, but I just don't feel comfortable with the Conservation Commission when we have a shed problem. Not pushing,
Okay.
as Andrew said.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this topic? I'm looking at you, Tony. No. Okay, so,
Nothing to add.
so as Abraham Lincoln said, 3 no's, I'm a yes, so the ayes have it. No, I won't do that.
He was a war president.
He was.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so I'll go back to him and tell him that you mean he's wanting to move it.
Okay.
All right, so next topic. The next conservation DPW meeting is October 3rd. Martha's not here, she's been making them. I've made most of them. I'm assuming that that's going to continue. Obviously, anybody else is invited to raise their hands and let us know that they want to either take our place or just be involved.
Yeah, this one will be particularly interesting because we're going to discuss a list of work that the Conservation Commission, Trails Committee need at Matera Cabin and elsewhere, and just ask them not so much to do it, but to just recognize it and have it on their schedule, so we could kind of plan around it. Some big work. The Matera Cabin's leaking. It's leaking from a couple of problems. We don't have a gutter. So hits the ground, goes right into the garage.
In the back of the building.
In the back of the building, opposite side. We don't have a graded driveway or a paved driveway, so everything comes down the hill, across the driveway. Right where the path is to the front door is a low spot, so it's a stream in the winter, a stream in rainstorms. And then there was a suggestion to just try to put some cutouts in the path and a grate to divert the water elsewhere. And so we do have a pretty big water problem over there. And there's just some other work that the Conservation Commission wants to do. And we've been working hard. Brian Bowe's been working hard, and the commission's been working hard to try to upgrade our presence around town. And for, I can tell you that I don't think the Matera Cabin area has been mowed one time this year.
So.
It may have been,
So if I can jump in.
it doesn't look like it has.
The emphasis point here is that at this point, the way we get things done is Chuck, item by item, will ask for help. That's why Chuck has emphasized this idea of getting on a rotation. So basically having the things we need, like mowing Matera, put on a schedule so it gets done automatically in the normal course of operations. And it doesn't have to be yet another instance where we're asking for somebody to do something, which, people get to the end of their ropes and they don't want to see yet another request from conservation. Just a little point to add in there, I did have a meeting with Fidel the other day, and that was one of the topics was an alternative would be to actually give us some budget to allow us to handle our own kind of singular issues. As you can imagine, there was no real interest in that. But, so it was brought up. So that's why we want to talk to DPW and fess up to the fact that we're driving them crazy one item at a time. Let's make something that's more a planned part of their operations. Okay? No, you made a face, so how do you want to correct me?
That's a nice way of saying it. Matera Cabin, believe it or not, it shouldn't be a surprise, is a town building. They're supposed to be maintained. It should be on some list somewhere to have all these things done. So.
Okay, so we're back to the empathy thing.
Yeah, that's where I feel. All right, so anyways, it's going to be an exciting meeting in case anyone else wants to join.
All right.
That's all I wanted to say.
Anything from the administrator's report? Or have you about killed those?
No, but I don't want to skip over, and I don't know if it's probably not off on yours, but I have a question about the rules and regulations for Mr. McCann. And I just wanted to know if you would just go over our next steps again, because I think we were asking what were the next steps we were supposed to do at this point? The rules, was I supposed to send them to town council?
Oh, I thought the final step was I had made just a few more changes based on what the commission had requested. I thought everyone's going to look at that and we were just going to briefly say, are we okay with this? And then off to town council.
So you'll be on the next meeting. We'll do
Great.
that and
I figured it'd be pretty brief because it's not much new stuff. But I thought we should all together say, okay, we're ready. Because at that point, before you send it on to town council, per what Martha requested, I'll do a red line. In addition to the document, there'll be a red line. I think town council will appreciate having a red line in addition to the write-up.
Okay, great. I'm glad we're back on track with that. So it'll be on the next meeting.
I thought it was left up. I should have said, I assumed it was left up because there was so much business. That was my assumption.
Oh, so
You're too kind.
I don't remember which one of us actually had that as the next steps. I don't assume it was me, but
That's okay.
Either way, now we know. So next item, quickly, Town Forest Day is September 23rd. Does anybody believe they will be there for all or a portion of that day? This takes place on the playing fields at Wood End School. We'll have a table and a canopy. We'll have some material, and essentially it's yet another time for us to outreach to the community to talk about what we do, why we do it, and why they shouldn't hate us. So anybody gonna raise their hands and say, be there with me?
Yeah, and there's an opportunity to have a walk through the town forest and tell people what you know about what's out there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We could kind of arrange that too. Other groups are doing that. I don't know if there's any interest in that kind of stuff, but it's well attended. The select board goes there. People show up all day long. So
Yeah, Town Forest
I always
Committee
say,
will be
I'll
there.
go.
Trails will be there. Dave Williams often does a bird walk.
Yeah,
often.
he's going to do that. Yeah, so there would be certain times for different things going on.
And I apologize, I'm out of state that weekend.
Can you prove that?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Do like mushroom ID.
How about it?
Here's the 23rd.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of soccer that happens in those fields on that side of the.
Now, I was gonna ask you if you know what time you're scheduling these events.
It doesn't say on here. I thought it was 10 to 3 last year.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's right in the middle of the day.
Yeah, I think it's 10 to 3. It's in that ballpark.
And a lot of people are gone at 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do an update next on the street fair. It's going to be the same thing. So basically, the first hour and a half or so is the most important to cover. That's when we are likely to have multiple people at the booth at any one time. And while I can talk all day long, I can't talk to necessarily that many people. So who's going to be there? Okay, so I'll be there.
I have some soccer.
Oh, I'll go too. Yeah,
Okay, so
so
Chuck will
we
be there.
both can go.
I'm gonna check sports schedules also.
I understand, you have a life, that's okay. Next is the street fair, really quickly. We had a booth like this, first hour and a half, we had a lot of traffic. Then it rained and we had no traffic, so Martha and I were
It's the right
left.
up to summer, sorry.
Martha and I were left, we packed up and ran away. Couple of quick observations. The biggest topic of conversation was Psalms Millet. People wanted to understand more what was going on, when it was gonna be done, things of that nature. Was it gonna be nice after they did the work? Somebody actually asked me, is it gonna be worth walking in afterwards? Yes. And oddly enough, about 40% of people we talked to were out-of-towners. The one that makes the most sense, there's a woman who just opened a flower store in the building that used to be the paint store, essentially across Main Street. So she opened a flower store there and she came in to see more about Reading. But that was interesting. We had a number from North Reading, Linfield, one from Wilmington. I can't explain that.
Yeah, the health department said your booth was well attended.
I didn't even see them. Where were they?
Yeah, well, the food, they have to be there for the
Oh,
food.
okay.
people,
So, yeah, planning was next to us. Climate advisory was next to that. Other side was the senior people. So anyway,
Before you move on, Martha just let me know that she'll attend the Town Forest Day and it's between 9 and 1.
is she listening?
She is. Hi, Martha.
I thought you were pointing at the clock. I didn't know you were pointing at her.
I don't know where the cameras are.
I've been waving at Ruth.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I was wondering why she was up there.
The owl picks up.
Okay,
Ruth
any
when we
bills
all
to be
leave.
approved? No, there never is.
What's that?
Any bills to be approved? No, there never is. I can say it again.
No, there's not a bill at this point.
Okay, then we're on to minutes for approval. First one is August 9th. Did everybody have a chance to review those? And do you have any comments? Or did you submit them already?
I've seen August 9th. I have not seen August 23rd. I'm sorry if I missed it, and I thought I've checked all my emails, but I haven't seen it.
Is that on,
August 9th
is
I
that on the
have,
agenda?
It is on the agenda, 8:23.
but I don't recall receiving it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so,
that's,
so it would have been on the
PC
agenda
response.
email as an attachment.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember offhand right now.
Okay.
That's what I saw,
Well,
but, okay, so the
But this
bottom,
one I have seen, and so I have one change.
okay, hang on one second.
Okay.
What were you gonna say?
I can't search to see if I sent it out in that
Oh, okay.
email. That's
So-
all I said.
Okay.
Because you can't search on an iPad.
So Bill has a comment on August 9th.
August 9th on page 3, it says, "It has been a long time since Mr., how do you say Carl, Sacconi?
Yeah, Sacconi.
Since Mr. Sacconi," and it says "has been unable to attend the meetings," it should read
Has been
able.
able.
Right, but that's it for me.
Okay. Anybody else, any comments? Okay, with that amendment, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from August 9th?
I move to approve the minutes from August 9th.
Second? Anyone?
Bill McCants, I'll second the motion.
Andy?
Hank Green in favor? Tony Rotalakis in favor.
Bill McCants in favor?
Brian Bowe in favor.
Want to hold off on the other ones just to make
So
sure?
August 23rd, it sounds like at least one person didn't get to it, maybe more. So we'll hold off on that until next time. Having said that, any other last minute comments? No, thank you. So we're going to we're going to adjourn at 10:02 by my watch. Can I have a vote on that by a show of hands?
Great, all right.
Hallelujah. Okay, thank you all.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
Good night.